Mr. Chancellor, I first met Cherie Blair and came to know of her extraordinary leadership and global influence as a champion of women's rights in January of 2011 during a trip to the country of my childhood, Bangladesh. Cherie had just been appointed the first chancellor of the newly established Asian University for Women in Chittagong, and I was deeply honored to receive an invitation to speak at a symposium to celebrate the laying of the foundation of the school's new campus. As one of AUW's founding patrons, Cherie helped to generate the political and philanthropic support that ultimately led to the granting of the university charter in 2008. This remarkable international institution is the first of its kind in a region of the world where liberal values are under constant threat, where the challenges of poverty, environmental degradation, and public health can seem insurmountable, and where the talents and potential of women are often severely constrained by discrimination. As home to 540 female students who speak more than 30 different languages and who come from more than a dozen countries, as varied as Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, Cambodia, Sri Lanka, China, Myanmar, India, and Vietnam, AUW is in fact a triumph of hope over despair. What its students have in common is that nearly all come from deprived backgrounds, and most are the first women from their family to attend university. And all are empowering themselves through education with a determination to one day play leadership roles in the social, political, and economic development of their native countries. As the first member of our own family to attend university, and with the same burning belief in the transformational power of education and self-empowerment, Cherie Blair has much in common with these determined young women. Cherie is a leading international human rights lawyer, founding member of the British law firm Matrix Chambers, and chair of Omnia Strategy LLP, a legal strategy consultancy with expertise in law, governance, and economics. In 2008, she established the Cherie Blair Foundation for Women to promote women's economic development, and she remains closely involved with a long list of charities that place a special emphasis on women and children. She is honorary chair of the World Justice Project, and earlier this year, she was recognized as a Commander of the British Empire for her tireless service to women's issues and charitable causes in the UK and around the world. And last month, on May the 18th, the Asian University for Women celebrated the commencement of its first graduating class. As Chancellor, Cherie Blair granted first ever degrees from the university to 134 graduates. The future of these 134 courageous young women include plans for graduate school in fields as diverse as business, computer science, development studies, environmental science, and urban planning. Some plan to start their own enterprises or non-governmental organizations or obtain their first jobs. Others have already been accepted to graduate programs at Oxford and at the UN University of Peace. Just a couple of examples. Regardless of their individual plans, I know that all will take much inspiration from the Chancellor who helped to enable the education they have received. Indeed, Cherie is a remarkable leader who serves as a role model for women around the globe who aspire to make our world a better and more compassionate place. Mr. Chancellor, as President and Vice Chancellor, and in the name of the Senate, it gives me great pleasure to ask you to confer the degree of Dr. Laus Honoris Causa upon Cherie Blair.
By virtue of the authority vested in me as Chancellor, I admit you to the degree Doctor of Laws, honoris causa. Congratulations, Dr. Blair. Well done. And we have a certificate here for you. Please agree. Another. On behalf of all assembled here today, I should now like to invite our newest alumna, Dr. Blair, to address Convocation.
Well, thank you, Chancellor, and thank you to you too, Dr. Chakma, for that very flattering tribute, and one which you achieved something that very few people achieve when talking about me. You didn't once mention my husband. I think that proves you're a true feminist. But I also want to say thank you to my fellow graduates today for welcoming me here today and inviting someone from Britain to share a really special day with you. I'm a little confused, I have to confess, because yesterday at around midday, I got on a plane in Heathrow Airport, London. And then I traveled across the world for over 12 hours and many thousands of miles, only to find myself back in London. But a London transformed. I don't know what happened in those 12 hours, but it doesn't look quite the same as the one I left. However, I believe that by tomorrow morning, it will be exactly the same all over again. But I was thrilled to be able to have the opportunity to visit Canada. I love coming here, and like many people from my country, I have family here. And I'm absolutely delighted that two of them are with me here today. But you know, I'm not the only one who thinks that Canada's a great country. It is, in fact, one of the most admired countries in the world. It constantly wins awards for being one of the best countries to live in regard to the quality of life. Its people are known all over the world as being friendly and honest and open-hearted and generous. And I've seen that here today in London. Now, all of you today have achieved something very special. 24% of working-age Canadians have a university degree, and you now proudly take your place amongst them. But this achievement is both an honor and a challenge. As graduates, you are all leaders and important role models. And the question for you is, what will you do with that success? How will you use what you have learned to influence the world around you? And as a parent myself who has sat in those rows 3 times now, I also want to congratulate your parents and your loved ones who are here to support you today. None of you have made this journey entirely on your own. Those who have supported and loved you throughout the process and shared with you the highs and indeed the lows are now here today to celebrate as well. And they will carry the memory of today with them, not only in that inevitable graduation photo, perhaps rather awkwardly took but proudly displayed, but in their hearts and in their minds as they share your excitement at what future lays in front of you. I know that because I was someone whose future was transformed by the power of education. Now, please I don't want to overdo the rags to riches story. I'm not suggesting that I was particularly hard done by. In fact, I was extremely fortunate. I was lucky that my career has coincided with a time of tremendous progress for women in the law and in society. But you know, there was nothing in my background that ever suggested that I would become a lawyer or part-time judge. I come from a relatively modest, single-parent household in Liverpool. As your Vice-Chancellor said, I was the first person in my family ever to have the chance to study at university. My mother and grandmother both left school at 14, but they were determined that my sister and I would have every chance to grasp the opportunity for higher education that had been denied to them. I was very lucky. I went to university at a time when things were opening up. I got a good degree at a time when women were able to enter the law. And then I also met a rather remarkable young man. Now, I don't want to suggest that success at university always means that you get to marry the Prime Minister of your country. In fact, I want to suggest that each and every one of you should have the ambition to be the Prime Minister of your country. That's certainly what I wanted to do at 14, and though I didn't quite make it, I came quite a close second best. But of course, whatever your ambitions, remember, life doesn't always go exactly to plan. But I talked about the fact that in my generation, we saw this amazing opportunity in my country, and indeed in Canada, for women to play a full role in society. But you are the first members of a new generation, a truly global community. And for you, the challenge is to work out, what does it mean to be a true global citizens? There's risks, of course, and we see that with the global economic crisis. Indeed, we see it too in the global climate change, which means that not only did I feel comfortable seeing road signs with names I recognized, but I also got the weather that I recognized as well. But of course, the global world brings responsibility and opportunities. It means you have to think globally in the fight to build a better and more stable world for us all, because the future is yours to shape and create. And the challenge can seem daunting. There will be people who will say to you, frankly, the problems of global poverty or of climate change are so big and so complex that you can't make a difference. But I tell you, don't listen to them. I have been lucky enough to see around the world just what a difference one individual can make, and how we make our choices in our life, at home, can transform the lives of many, many thousands of miles away. And that's particularly the case when we look at the treatment of girls and women in many parts of the world. It's girls in too many societies who miss out on schooling. It's women who are most likely to be illiterate. They are the first to go hungry and to suffer from violence and abuse. It's the statistics show that girls and women make up the majority of the world's poor. From the very first days of their life to old age, girls and women in too many countries face barriers which their male counterparts just don't. Now, that's both unfair, and it's also, frankly, stupid. Because if we write off the talents and potential of half the world's population just because of their gender, we are never going to tackle these world problems. We need women to take their place, not instead of the men, because after all, I have 3 boys and only 1 daughter, but alongside them, becoming leaders in business, in politics, in their community. And when we do that, and when we achieve that full equality of men and women working together, the results can be incredible. As the Vice-Chancellor said, a few weeks ago, I addressed another group of remarkable new graduates, 134 in Bangladesh. And of course, as you may well know, Dr. Chakma is not someone who's unfamiliar with Chittagong. He had a remarkable journey too, as the first in his family to get an education, to go to university. He came from the hill tribes of Chittagong to become here the President and Vice-Chancellor of the University of Western Ontario. He was an exception, though. Bangladesh, like so many other parts of Asia, has less than half the percentage of university graduates than we have here in Canada, and even fewer of them are women. As the Chancellor said, your Vice-Chancellor said, our students don't just come from Bangladesh. In fact, the aim of the Asian University for Women is to be a regional hub where young women from across Asia, from different religions and different communities, come together. So at the moment, they come from over a dozen countries. We give them the chance of the university education that perhaps too often we take for granted in the developed world, where without that chance, because of lack of money and cultural barriers, and we say cultural barriers, what we actually mean is cultural discrimination against women that doesn't believe that they are worthy of education. If it wasn't for that, those cultural barriers, they would be able to take their place in the world. And we bring them up to be global citizens who can both embrace and understand different religions and cultures, respect what is good in them, but also fight to change what is not so good. And if, like me, you've met the students, you see the most incredible potential, which but for the Asian University for Women would have been wasted. I hope that some of you in this room would like to learn more about the Asian University for Women. We are always looking for bright young graduates, and indeed postgraduates, to come and join our teaching staff for a year or 2. And we're always looking for international companies and foundations to offer scholarships to the girls, or internships and practical training. So if you're interested, please get in touch. Many of you will have had some form of support to help you this far. Now that you've graduated, remember those who helped you along the way and take time to give back help to someone else whenever you can. Support others through mentoring and giving advice. It's not just a nice thing to do, though it is. It's a great way to build up leadership skills and to get another perspective on the world. I know that you'll all keep open minds because that's what you've been taught here. I know, as your Chancellor said, you will go on learning. And I know that you will all play your part in building a better and fairer world where everyone, whatever their background, whatever their gender, whatever their religion, can make their full contribution. And looking around you all in this hall today, supported by all that love, I feel the energy and inspiration. I have no doubt that you are up to the task. And that makes me so very proud to be part of the class of 2013. Thank you.
Thank you, Cherie, for your inspirational address this morning. Throughout your career, you have championed those who are often not able to fight for themselves. Additionally, through your volunteerism, you have aided women and children around the globe and helped them to make better lives for themselves. Our world is a better place as a result of your efforts, and I know that in particular, students from the Asian University for Women have gained much as a result of your leadership and commitment to their cause. You inspire us all. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me once again in congratulating our newest honorary Doctor of Laws, Cherie Blair.